The first time Emma tried to speak English, her voice froze in her throat. The words were in her mind, but they refused to come out. Her heart was beating fast, her hands were cold, and her face slowly turned red as the person in front of her waited for her to say something. She opened her mouth, but nothing came. After a few seconds of painful silence, she looked down and said quietly, "Sorry. I don't speak English." In that moment, she felt small. She felt weak. She felt invisible. But deep inside her heart, small voice whispered something that would later change her entire life. The voice said, "One day, you will." Emma was an ordinary girl with ordinary dreams, but she had one big problem. She had been studying English for years in school, but she still could not speak it confidently. She knew grammar rules. She knew vocabulary. She passed exams. But when it came to real conversations, she felt lost. It was like having wings but not knowing how to fly. Every time she saw people speaking English fluently, she felt jealous and inspired at the same time. She wondered how they did it so easily while she struggled with even simple sentences. One evening, everything changed. Emma was watching a video online. In the video, a girl said something that shocked her. The girl said, "I learned English in just 3 months." Emma could not believe it. 3 months sounded impossible. Emma had spent years trying and still could not speak confidently. At first, she thought it was a lie. But then the girl explained her method. She did not talk about grammar books. She did not talk about memorizing rules. She talked about listening, speaking, and thinking in English every single day. That night, Emma could not sleep. She kept thinking about that video. She realized something important. She had been learning English the wrong way. She had been focusing on perfection instead of progress. She had been afraid of making mistakes. And that fear had stopped her from growing. At that moment, Emma made a decision. She said to herself, "I will give everything for 3 months. No excuses. No fear. Just action." She did not know what would happen, but she was ready to try. The next morning, Emma started her journey. The first thing she did was simple, but powerful. She started listening to English every day. She listened to stories, interviews, and conversations. At first, she understood very little. The words sounded fast and unclear. Her brain felt tired. Sometimes she felt frustrated. Sometimes she wanted to quit. But she remembered her promise. She continued. After 1 week, something small happened. She started recognizing familiar words. It was like seeing old friends in a crowd. This gave her hope. She realized her brain was slowly adapting. Emma also started speaking, even when she was alone. She described everything she saw. She spoke about her day. She spoke about her thoughts. Her sentences were not perfect. She made many mistakes. But she did not stop. She understood that speaking was like exercising a muscle. The more she used it, the stronger it became. One day, she looked at herself in the mirror and spoke in English for 5 minutes. At first, she felt embarrassed. She felt silly. But she continued. Every day, those 5 minutes became 10 minutes. Then 20 minutes. Slowly, speaking English became more natural. Emma also changed her environment. She made English a part of her life. She changed her phone language to English. She wrote her daily diary in English. She thought in English. When she saw an object, she named it in English. When she had a thought, she tried to think in English. The first month was the hardest. There were days when she felt tired. There were days when she doubted herself. But there were also small victories. She understood more. She spoke more easily. She felt progress. One day, something unexpected happened. A tourist stopped her on the street and asked for directions in English. Emma felt the old fear for a moment. But this time, she did not run away. She listened carefully. She understood. And she replied. Her answer was simple, but it was clear. The tourist smiled and said, "Thank you." Emma walked away with a heart full of joy. It was a small conversation, but for Emma, it was a big victory. The second month was different. Things became easier. Her brain was faster. She did not need to translate every word. She started thinking directly in English. This made her speaking smoother. Emma also discovered the power of repetition. She listened to the same stories again and again. Each time, she understood more. She learned new expressions. She learned how sentences were formed naturally. Her confidence grew. She was no longer afraid of English. She was becoming friends with it. One evening, Emma joined an online English speaking group. She was nervous. She thought her English was not good enough. But she joined anyway. When it was her turn to speak, her voice was shaking. But she spoke. And something amazing happened. People understood her. They smiled. They encouraged her. This gave her even more confidence. The third month arrived. Emma was no longer the same person. English was no longer a stranger. It was a part of her. She could express her thoughts. She could share her ideas. She could communicate. One day, she met a foreign customer at her workplace. This time, she did not feel fear. She felt calm. She spoke naturally. The conversation lasted several minutes. After the conversation, the customer said, "Your English is very good." Emma smiled, but inside, she felt something deeper. She felt proud. She felt strong. That night, Emma sat alone and thought about her journey. She remembered the girl who was afraid to speak. She remembered the girl who said, "I don't speak English." And she realized that girl was gone. In just 3 months, her life had changed. But the truth was, the real change was not in her English. The real change was in her mindset. She had stopped being afraid. She had started believing. Emma understood something important. Learning English was not about talent. It was about daily action. It was about consistency. It was about courage. She realized that anyone could do it. Anyone could improve. Anyone could change. All it takes is a decision. A decision to start. A decision to continue. A decision to never give up. Emma looked at herself in the mirror again. But this time, she did not see fear. She saw confidence. And in a calm, clear voice, she said, "I can speak English." And for the first time in her life, she truly believed it. Her journey was not magic. Her journey was practice. Her journey was courage. Her journey was proof that 3 months can change everything, if you are brave enough to begin. But Emma's real test was still waiting for her, and she did not know it yet. Life has a strange way of testing you when you begin to grow. It gives you an opportunity, not to break you, but to show you who you have become. One morning, her manager called her into the office. Emma's heart started beating faster because she did not know the reason. She walked in slowly and sat down. Her manager looked at her and said, "Emma, next week, an international client is visiting. I want you to assist and communicate with them." For a moment, Emma felt time stop. Just a few months ago, this would have been her worst nightmare. She would have found an excuse. She would have avoided it. But now, she sat there, silent, feeling both fear and excitement at the same time. She walked out of the office with thousands of thoughts in her mind. A small voice inside her said, "What if you fail?" But another voice, stronger and calmer, said, "You have prepared for this." That night, Emma did not waste time worrying. She prepared. She listened to English conversations. She practiced speaking in front of the mirror. She reminded herself that she did not need to be perfect. She only needed to communicate. When the day finally arrived, Emma woke up early. Her hands were slightly cold, but her mind was ready. She reached her workplace and waited. When the client arrived, Emma saw a tall woman with a kind smile. The woman looked at Emma and said, "Hello, nice to meet you." Emma felt the familiar nervousness, but this time, she did not run from it. She smiled back and replied, "Hello, nice to meet you too." Her voice was not perfect, but it was clear. And that was enough. As the day continued, Emma spoke more and more. She listened carefully. She responded. She even laughed during conversations. Something inside her was changing in real time. She was no longer translating every sentence. She was understanding naturally. She was speaking naturally. At one moment, she realized something incredible. She was no longer thinking about her English. She was thinking about her ideas. At the end of the day, the client smiled and said, "Emma, your English is very good, and you are very confident." Those words touched her deeply. After the client left, Emma sat alone for a moment. She did not say anything. She just smiled. Because she knew the truth. 3 months ago, she could not even imagine this moment. That evening, Emma walked home slowly. The world looked the same, but she felt different. She felt stronger. She felt free. She realized that English was never just about language. It was about confidence. It was about breaking the limits she had placed on herself. When she reached home, she opened her old notebook. She saw the first page where she had written her promise, 3 months. No excuses. Tears filled her eyes, not because she was sad, but because she was proud. She had kept her promise to herself. Emma also realized something else. The biggest change was not in her speaking. The biggest change was in her courage. She was no longer afraid of making mistakes. She was no longer afraid of being judged. She had learned that mistakes were not enemies. Mistakes were teachers. From that day, Emma continued practicing, not because she was forced to, but because she loved growing. English became a part of her life. She watched movies without subtitles. She listened to podcasts while walking. She spoke with new people. Every day, she improved a little more. One day, her younger cousin came to her and said, "I want to learn English, but I am afraid." Emma saw her old self in those eyes. She smiled and said gently, "I was afraid too." She shared her story. She shared her struggles. She shared her journey. And then she said something simple but powerful. She said, "You don't need years. You need daily courage." Emma understood now that learning English in 3 months was not magic. It was focus. It was consistency. It was belief. She had trained her brain to accept English as a normal part of life. She had stopped seeing it as something difficult. Months later, Emma's life opened new doors. She got better opportunities at work. She met new people. She explored new ideas. English was no longer a barrier. It was a bridge. But the most beautiful moment came one quiet night. Emma stood in front of her mirror, the same mirror where she had once felt embarrassed and afraid. She looked at herself and remembered everything. She remembered the fear. She remembered the doubt. She remembered the decision she made. She spoke softly to herself in English, not to practice, but to remember. She said, "You did not give up." She realized that the real secret was not talent. The real secret was showing up every day, even when it was uncomfortable. The real secret was believing before seeing results. Emma smiled because she knew her journey was proof of something powerful. You do not need to be special to learn English. You only need to be brave enough to start and strong enough to continue. She also understood that fear does not disappear before action. Fear disappears after action. Confidence is not the beginning. Confidence is the result. Emma's story was not just about learning English. It was about becoming a new person. A person who does not run from challenges. A person who does not accept limits. And deep inside her heart, she knew something she wished everyone could understand. 3 months can change your skills, but those 3 months can also change your identity. The girl who once said, "I don't speak English," had become the woman who was no longer afraid of her voice. Her journey started with fear. Her journey continued with practice. Her journey ended with belief. And her story proved one simple truth. If you give your full effort for 3 months, your life can change forever. All you have to do is begin. If you enjoyed this story and want to improve your English and your life, make sure to subscribe to the channel and join this learning journey with us. And watch the next story on your screen to continue improving your English.